Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today, we are covering Hell House LLC, a found footage movie. I think it feels like it's been a while since we've done one of those.
A little bit.
But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So today, for a multitude of reasons, I am drinking a more relaxing tea. And I am drinking the Rishi Lavender Mint Tea. It's probably going to be... Yeah, I saw
That
this.
sounds nice.
I was like, I gotta try this. And Rishi is a great brand. They're the kind that has like the real leaves in the bag. So it's like loose leaf tea. But it has peppermint, sage, licorice root, lavender, and lavender extract, whatever that is. It's lavender.
Yeah, all the lavender. And I am using our merch cup.
Yay!
The I'm going to kill you at some point mug.
I did not.
And I have not had my allotted caffeine today. So I grabbed Mystic Dragon Green Tea.
Ooh.
It is by the Spice and Tea Exchange in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was a gift.
Fancy.
One of our tea sippers sent it to me after they had a vacation.
Oh, very nice.
Thanks, Mom. And I appreciate it. And for the ingredients, it has sencha and dragonwell green tea, cornflower petal, strawberry, and rhubarb flavor.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But for our tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So for Hell House LLC's summary, it's a thank you to IMDb. I meant to reword it, but I lazy.
It's fine.
5 years after an unexplained malfunction causes the death of 15 tour goers and staff on the opening night of a Halloween haunted house tour. And it's about a documentary crew that travels back to the scene of this tragedy to try and figure out what really happened. So, yeah. So for entertainment, this movie, like found footage movies are really hit or miss, especially nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Paranormal Activity.
Yes.
But this is like one of those gems that you don't really hear a lot of people talk about, but it's a lot better than you would anticipate it to be.
Yes. So I had found this completely by random crazy happenstance, and on a whim decided to watch it. I actually watched the second one first.
Oopsie poopsie.
Because that's what I stumbled across. And it made me want to watch the first one. And I hawked it on Alyssa.
Yes.
Like, you must see this.
Yes. So, I would, like, this isn't like I absolutely have to watch this movie all the time, but it's definitely like a consistent go-to for me.
Definitely.
So I would rate this a 7.5. The strongest points of the movie is I feel like they do a great job with setting up the movie and characters. Like, I feel like there's so many, I mean, horror movies in general, but also just found footage movies where, like, they just kind of throw these characters at you and they don't really do a whole good job of, like, fleshing them out. They more, like, put them in situations, and I don't know, it's just kind of like hard to kind of get,
Follow along.
yeah, or to like enjoy the characters.
Hmm.
But it's like they do a really good job like setting up, oh, this is what's going to happen to them, and then you watch it actually like how it unfolds. It's like something happens, but you don't know exactly how or ooh, excuse me, or what happens. And so it's really cool to like, anyways. And then they do, they
We're
do,
tired, guys.
yeah, they do a really good job on like the subtle scares, like like
They do.
chill down your spine type of
Yes,
like real good
for
scares.
sure. This is one of the few that don't rely on jump scares for every single scare of the effing movie.
Yes. And I do really enjoy, this is another reason why it's like it's not just a good found footage movie, but like a good like movie in general, like even if it wasn't found footage, where like they slowly reveal the history about the hotel as the movie goes on, because it kind of flips back and forth between you watching in the past what's happening to these characters and the present day them like interviewing people. And then they do jump scares really well. It is so refreshing to have a movie that is like, oh, we need to have loud music to let you know that there's a jump scare. Like they do that I think like once or twice, but they do some other
Yeah,
jump
it's
scares where it's like he just turns the camera and like clown right there.
mhm.
And so it jump scares you without it feeling forced or cheesy. Like it
Yes.
feels natural.
Yes, and they're warranted.
Mm-hmm.
The jump scares are actually warranted. It serves a purpose and it relieves a little bit of the tension, but they also build up to it. It's not just completely bam, here's a jump scare with a loud noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I also love how they, as the the documentary crew is interviewing people, they kind of like slowly reveal what happens to each of the characters that you're watching. And so it's literally you're sitting back for the ride, like not only having the mystery slowly unraveled for you, but you're also watching yourself like unravel it. It's kind of like two pieces where the documentary crew is unraveling one part of the mystery while you are watching the footage and like understanding like other parts of the mystery. So that way you collectively you have a better understanding of what happened. But as far as like the less strong points for the movie is I don't know what it is specifically about found footage movies. I guess like other horror movies too. But it's like they always make men such assholes. So I don't understand. It's like, you know,
And by that she means like horn dog.
yes, like just
Like
constantly thinking of women as
there
like,
should have been a lawsuit for sexual harassment type horn
yeah.
dog.
It's like, men have a more dynamic
They do
character to
actually
them than just,
think of other things.
yeah, like if you want to have one guy like that, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they
It's
mostly did just have the one guy like that, but he was so in your face about it for most of the movie that it's
yeah.
just, we get it. You're a pig. Move on.
Like honestly, it distracts from the enjoyment of the movie. Like I don't understand why they did it. Like I don't understand why movies keep doing it like that. Yes, it's
It's
super
sweeter
cute.
than I expected.
Oh, sweeter.
Yes, and it's like a really, really soft, it's good green tea. It's not that bitter kind of low quality green tea. This is the good green tea. Like this would be good cold too. Like iced.
Hmm.
It'd be really good iced. It
I,
almost tastes like a dessert tea.
since we're trying our teas, I went ahead and tried the lavender. And it's interesting because, like, whenever you smell it, you smell more peppermint with like a teeny tiny bit of lavender. But then whenever you drink it, it's like lavender hits you first, and then the peppermint kind of like stays on your tongue. And so now, like,
Mm.
right now, it feels like I had a mint. Like, it's a strong
Love
peppermint.
that.
Oh,
When the peppermint just cools after.
yes. Oh, so
That's
lovely.
great.
I love
But
it.
this is really good. This is
Ooh.
really good. I'm gonna have to bring it over next
Yes, I want to try
time.
now. But but yeah, so that's a really frustrating part of this movie and a lot of other of these types of movies in general. Um and then my other thing is this I'm kind of conflicted on because I really wish they had given, and this is the movie standing alone, not the sequels or anything like that. I really wish they had revealed a little bit more of an explanation on why there were like demons, like why there was possession, why there were like all of these, I guess you'd call them sigils or symbols. Like all you really hear about is that people kept disappearing from the hotel and that the hotel owner hung himself because the because his business was declining. And I guess we probably should have said a disclaimer that the movie you do see a picture of the owner after he passed.
You also see a little bit of basically suicide.
Yeah.
A guy cuts his throat,
Yeah,
and
that's true. I
another
forgot about
guy
that.
does get hung as well. You do see him getting hung in the attic. His friend tries to save him. This is toward the end. But then there are robed people that stop them. So
Yeah.
it just turns into a cluster.
Yeah. But it's like, on the one hand, I wish I had been given more information about that because it would, it's kind of confusing because I'm like, well, like, what, like, how does that fit into the story? But then on the other hand, with it being found footage, it makes sense that not all of these answers would be revealed to us because they might not necessarily know. Same with the documentary crew. Like, if the
Mhm.
documentary crew had known that all that stuff was going on, I don't think they probably would have entered the building. But
And the
so,
documentary itself was also unfinished.
yeah. So it's like I a bit like conflicted with that because it's like on the one hand I wanted to know, but on the other hand it does make sense storyline wise to not have all of those answers revealed. But now that you mentioned that the documentary was never finished, that makes me wonder. Well, then who uploaded the documentary? Like, how did this
Not
happen?
So not all of them went into the hotel. They left one of their members behind, the one that was reviewing the videotapes that Sarah had given them.
That's true.
So now how he ended up getting the footage from when they broke into the
Yeah.
hotel is a different question in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the other footage he could have easily gotten before they left for the hotel. So
Yeah, so I mean that stuff is diving a little bit more into the
yeah.
realism, so I'll expand on that a little bit more, but that's what I got for entertainment.
Yeah. So I give it a 7. I am still a little bit partial to the second one, and we'll do that one at a later time, I'm sure, but because it is a great series. But it's one of the better found footage films for sure. They're great with subtle scares. There are things that you could miss that they don't necessarily react to either.
Mhm.
So unless you're paying attention, you might miss a couple of things. Um, they build up to the jump scares. So when they do have a jump scare, they make sense.
Yeah.
And they're okay. You're not mad at it like we usually are.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a scare, it's a startle. And they're different.
Yeah.
But this movie doesn't rely on that. And even with some of their jump scares, they don't have the loud noise, like Alyssa was saying. So it's a lot more enjoyable, and it actually makes it a lot scarier when it does happen. And it makes you freak out a little more. And you're just sitting here like, oh God, what's going to come next with this? You get genuinely anxious for the characters and hope that they get out of the situation and do the smart thing and leave.
Yeah.
Of course they don't. This movie's got a movie. And they tell you in the beginning that they obviously didn't. But you still kind of hope that they do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the one character, Paul, I believe, is such a pig, you don't feel bad when he gets attacked. But the way that he gets attacked is absolutely terrifying. And it's great. It's awful and we hate it, but it's great. Scare wise. They did a good job with it. And then he's like gone for a couple of days. And they can't find him. And when they do find him, they think that all the other stuff that they had randomly experienced around the house was him. So they make you kind of wonder, okay, was it him and something happened, he got in on a prank or something, or is it really they need to get out of here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of cool that they lead it in that direction a little. Um there's some things that aren't very realistic. We'll get to that obviously in the realism scale. But it's mostly it sucks you in. It doesn't take you out of the movie. There are very, very few things in there that you're like, hold on. I do wish that they had expanded more in this movie of exactly why they couldn't leave. Like, I believe it was Tony, I'm pretty sure, that at some point was like, F this, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm done. We just experienced this. None of you are smart enough to realize that this isn't normal.
Yeah.
I'm gone. And then Andrew takes him aside and tells him something that makes him change his mind and says, I can't leave. I have to stay. We have to put on the show of the haunted house and we have to stick it out. And it sucks. So I know that they go into it more in the later movies. I wish that they give you a bit more context in this one because it's such a 180 when he was so adamant about, I don't care anymore about what you guys want to do. I don't care that you don't believe me. I am gone. I'm doing the smart thing. I'm leaving. And then next scene, he's like, he's right. I can't leave. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So that part was frustrating, but everything else made mostly enough sense that you're invested pretty much right off the bat. I also love in the very beginning, I watch plenty of crime shows, so when they're doing like the news footage and everything and slicing everything together and having the interviews and all, it feels like an episode of Dateline or Snapped or 48 Hours.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It pulls
I know
you
it's
in.
not it does. I know it's not everybody's thing, and it jumps around a little bit with that kind of feel, but personally, I thought it was a bit more engaging that way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm used to that layout with the crime shows that I watch, so I enjoyed the hell out of it. But that's mostly what I had for entertainment. I wish more had build up and subtle scares like this one did.
Yeah, like it really is one of those movies where it just gives you chills.
Yes.
Like watch it in a pitch black room. Just
Yes. Dude, I watched this first one the first time on my own in the dark, and I was freaking out.
yes. Yeah. It doesn't take many movies
It
to
really
do
doesn't.
that to us. It just like
It's rare
yeah.
lately. We've seen so many that lately it takes a lot for us to get to that point. So for this one to have us both like, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, please don't.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep. But for realism, it's like there's a few questionable things about it, but overall it's not too bad. So I would personally give this a 3. The 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 first thing that kind of immediately comes to mind where I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense if this was like actually a film or whatever, or this happened in real life, is when someone the like after the jump scare with the clown the first time and them asking him as he's showing them the footage, oh, like was you or someone messing with the mannequin? But that was a little bit dumb of a question because instead of like asking, they had cameras all over the house. They could have just looked at that footage, not just the handheld camcorder footage, and shown, oh, like how did it move? Like it just, the fact that they just immediately, I don't know. Like I feel like they could have cut out that bit and made it feel more realistic rather than like, because as soon as I started asking that, it just throws it into question on like, oh, is this really a real incident that happened and stuff like that. But I do like, huh?
I think it kind of, for that one, depends on the angles that they had because they didn't have too many cameras set up at that point in the movie yet. They were still working on setting some of them up.
Yeah, but I
So it
wish,
depends a little bit, but they did jump to, oh, that's a nice prank pretty quick.
yeah, like even if they had made the comment, oh, we can't check the camera footage because that camera's not up yet or not functional
Yeah.
yet. It's like even if they just said that, that would just seal off that plot hole. Anyways,
Yeah.
but as far as realism, I thought it was really good the way that they did the actual incident where you are following a person that's going through the haunted house and you see people like running out and stuff. It's like I feel like they did that situation so well because you can see the confusion during the haunted house because people don't know what was staged and what was
Mhm.
actually an emergency. And honestly, that's a scary thought where it's like, well, what if something happened to you and you're in a haunted house and people just thought it was staged? It's like the urban legends. I don't know if these are actually true or not, but like the urban legends of like, oh, someone hung themselves from their tree in the front yard and it was Halloween. And so trick-or-treaters passed it all night thinking that it was
Oh,
a
that's a cool prop.
decoration. And then
Yeah.
they're like, oh, no, that was actually a real body. It's just like stuff like that is like really
Yeah.
creepy because it's like, whenever you're in that situation, you're like, oh, everything's fine. But then you come out of it and you realize what you actually experienced and you're just like, holy shit. Like that's
And they have used that idea in a few other movies
hmm
concerning haunted houses,
hmm
like the staged kind of haunted houses in movies. But I feel like this displays it a lot better than a
yeah.
lot of the others
Yeah.
and a lot more realistically.
Yeah.
Like when the clown runs by in the hallway trying to leave, and you're like, was that supposed to happen? Or
hmm
it's just very unsettling and confusing. And you start to wonder if that was supposed to to occur or if he was just yeeting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then kind of like the last thing and the biggest part that takes away from the realism for me, and this is a sin for many found footage movies, is some of the camera shots and the reason or and the way that they did the camera work didn't really make a lot of sense. Like the speculation on like, oh well, how did the documentary crew, how they got like attacked with the demon, how did that footage make its way out for us to be able to see? Or like I think his name was Tim or Paul, the perverted guy that or the guy that hid under the covers. Um,
That was Paul.
oh, Paul. Okay, thank you.
Paul the
Uh,
pig.
uh, uh, the fact that he wakes up twice. I mean, they had some legitimately good scares, to be fair, but the fact that he wakes up and immediately turns on the camera to talk into it. That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, yeah, you would turn on a light so you can see, but why would you be turning on the camera to start talking to it? Just
I can kind of see that with certain personality types. I know a couple people in particular that like live on social media and thrive on it. So being able to record yourself most of the time, I can see people like that being
but
into it.
they weren't even recording it for social media though.
I know, but he was told by I believe Alex to record everything setup wise, and he just kept taking it a step further because remember he was like recording the new hires and zooming in on the girls and all. So that wasn't quite as much of a stretch for me.
See, I just that just it doesn't make any sense, but um it's like if you hear something, why would you wake up and immediately turn on the camera? I don't know. Like especially whenever he's filming for a haunted house. Now, it'd be different if they were like paranormal investigators and he was woken up. Then yeah, I could totally see someone like turning on the camera to be like, "What was that?" But I mean, maybe it could, I guess an alternative explanation is since they did hear that stuff had happened in the house and he heard something happening, then maybe he instinctually turned on the camera because he's like, oh, maybe it was something paranormal. I don't know. That's the only way I can make sense out of it, though. But that's all I got for realism.
Yeah.
It's like, to be fair, I didn't really pay attention too much to like the when people got killed or whatever, because there wasn't anything that stuck out as being too unrealistic. But
No, a lot of the effects were really, really good.
yeah, like it did seem like
Hmm.
aside from like a few things that make it definitely stick out as a movie. Besides that, like you could, it's almost like Paranormal Activity where you could believe it as something that
Yeah,
might have actually happened. So,
for sure. No, I think a 3 is fair. I was thinking about maybe giving it a little higher, but while you were mentioning yours, I thought of a few other things that didn't make sense to me when I was watching it. And I would we touched on a couple things before, like how there weren't sexual harassment lawsuits and things brought up and issues that way with Paul the perv. Or
I mean, that could be like a pressure thing though. Like,
it could, and some people are like, oh, it's fine, he's harmless, it's whatever, but you would think with how hard he's going into it, like they would have at least said something.
yeah, like, dude, you need to,
Back off.
yeah.
But there's also a scene where Alex drops his phone and like the back comes off and all, but no one thinks to pick it back up and put it together or anything. That seemed extremely unrealistic to me. Like, anyone that drops their phone is immediately like, "Oh, crap," and is diving down to pick up their phone. Even when it's, a Nokia brick that is perfectly fine, you still at least put the back on it and put it back in your pocket. Like, you don't just walk off and leave it on the ground. That's just weird. Also, they decided to have their haunted house in an abandoned building that had been abandoned. They didn't know how long. They knew it was several years at least. But they didn't have any kind of inspectors coming in, any kind of contractors, and I know that they're extremely strapped for cash and they were working on it themselves. But that place needed to be checked over, if nothing else, for issues like rotten boards that you could fall through into the basement, or asbestos, or any number of electrical issues that could cause fires in the walls. Because all of these are liability issues.
I'd imagine at the minimum, maybe, because I don't know a whole lot about haunted houses, but I would assume that at minimum they'd have like a fire inspector come and inspect before.
At minimum. And with that place, they had broken windows and everything, so there's potential for mold. And they're staying there. Like, they said it was a few days before they got the lights on. But that doesn't mean that the place is suitable for habitation at all. That place looked like a strong gust of wind away from blowing over an area. So, I'm just like, when they were walking through it, all I was seeing was lawsuit. Lawsuits everywhere, tetanus. Like, you're just gonna get splinters and tetanus and lockjaw, and you're just gonna die, and you're gonna inhale mold spores or asbestos, and you're gonna die that way instead. It's just a toss-up of which is gonna kill you first. Or falling through the floor, or things coming through the ceiling. So it did not seem safe. It seemed like a total nightmare for a business, to be perfectly honest. Now, I get the potential for graffiti and like sigils and stuff. I wish they had touched on it, even as far as going like, oh, people probably broke in and did it as a joke or whatever, because that happens a lot with abandoned buildings. People get bored and want to explore, or teenagers are dared to go in and see how long they can stay in there and leave a mark, or they have a party, or they're bored and want to freak other people out that they know are going to be bored and come in after them. So I get potential like pentagrams and sigils and things like that. And I understand the Bibles, they would likely have extra down in the basement. I'm glad they at least touched on that. Like, it was a hotel. Hotels have Bibles in literally every room ever.
Yeah.
I wish that they had investigated more when they would see the mannequins move, particularly the heads, after they showed previously that they don't move. Why would you not mess with them more after seeing evidence that they could, like the heads could be turned, and see if maybe you just needed to finagle it a little bit or move it a different way, or if there was like some kind of lock or something, if you unlocked it, you could turn it, whatever. So I wish that they had dealt a little bit more with that. Because they jump to certain things very, very quick. And I know it's a movie. They have a very finite, small amount of time. Especially for found footage. They can't do it too long of a movie. Because then it just drags.
Yeah.
And they lose people's interest. And it starts to unravel even faster. And it won't make near as much sense. I get that. But they were weaker on those little things when they should have just beefed them up just a little bit, and it would have made it a much stronger movie.
Mm-hmm.
And made it even scarier if they looked into certain things a little more and can't still find an explanation for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but most of the issues that I took was just all of the lack of building code and permits and things.
Yeah.
You know, the normal stuff that would go into shoring up a place, even for a short while. Because if anything happens on the premises and you're running a business there, then it's on you. And if they're strapped for cash as it is and they're likely going under, then they're going to do everything that they can to make sure that it runs as smoothly as possible.
Yeah.
So, one last thing. The chick that was handcuffed in the basement.
Oh, yes.
Why they picked handcuffs that she can't just get out of or give her the key instead of the dude that was across the room.
That's definitely a safety hazard.
That's a huge safety hazard and makes no sense. So, that's what I got. Otherwise, it would have been a fairly strong movie. It's just where they get certain tapes after they were supposedly killed, building issues, and just all the lawsuits, all the potential lawsuits.
Yeah. But definitely overall, I feel like it's one of the stronger found footage movies. I feel like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity are definitely the stronger movies over this, but
Blair Witch is debatable, but I also get a lot more bored in that one than I do this one. So
yeah, I like. Well, we'll cover Blair Witch someday,
yeah.
and I have opinions that maybe a lot of people don't agree with, but
We'll get there.
but yeah, one day.
It's not the original found footage film for sure.
Yeah.
Hell House, but it's up there.
Yeah, and it's got great scares. It feels overall pretty realistic. It feels believable. It's fun to unravel the mystery as the movie plays through. But yeah, it's like out of all of the found footage movies there's really not that many that are much better than this one. So it's like if you enjoy found footage movies and you haven't given this one a watch, I definitely think it's worth looking into.
Highly recommend. This would be a really, really good one to wait until it's dark out.
Yes.
Turn off all the other lights.
Yes.
And then grab your popcorn or your snack of choice and sit with a couple of friends in the dark.
Or by yourself.
Watching. Ooh. If you're super brave, watch it by yourself. But it's a lot of fun too to watch it with a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And just have excuse you?
But
sorry, Hellhound made a weird noise. All good.
But thank you so much for everyone who joined us today, and let us know what you thought of the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea and keep up to date with our content, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and most places you listen to podcasts.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share our content. We also have a Teespring and a PayPal donate button available if you'd like to support us monetarily. And you can find all of the sites mentioned linked below. Until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy.
Bye.
Bye.